Welcome, travelers, to another episode of the Time Travel Trio podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Hyde.
And we're
The Time Travel Trio.
Kind of stumbled there a little bit in the beginning, but that's okay.
We're a little rusty. Episode 70, you know.
Yeah. A little tired. Okay, so before we get into the movie I picked for today, we do have a new review.
Ooh.
So, finally, it's been 6 months,
Wow.
I think, since
It took
we had
6
one.
months to get a new iTunes.
But it's fine, whatever. So, okay, so this comes from MM02313.
Okay.
It's titled, If I Could Turn Back Time. It says, if I could turn back time, I'd go back to the day I discovered this podcast so I could experience it all over again. Jen, Matt, and Hyde have great chemistry and banter as they delve into time travel flicks. The show is equal parts pop culture, science, and laughs. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to this podcast.
Why, thank you.
First of all, thank you,
Yeah.
MM.
MM02313.
Marty McFly.
Maybe?
Maybe.
I don't know. Or
In the
maybe
year-
M&M's.
a robot clone or someone who's in dystopian society where they're not given names, just initials. MM313, please report to the pod.
Sure. I feel like MM maybe is a pilot in this world.
Ooh, a pilot. I like
I
that.
could see that.
A future pilot or a regular pilot?
Gotta be future pilot.
Future pilot that obviously knows how to travel through time.
Yeah.
Maybe goes so fast, breaks some sort of barrier, and goes back in time.
What if their motivation was they wanted to go back in time to listen to our podcast again, even though you can do that anyway?
It's like the girl who leapt through time. It's like, I just wanted to see
Yeah.
this art piece. I was wanting to listen to this podcast.
That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, maybe there's some way that our podcast is no longer listenable, or the internet's totally gone, or something.
No.
Net neutrality is ended, and no one can afford to listen to our podcast anymore.
Maybe it's only like the near future. Like, what if it's February 3rd, 2013? Oh, wait. No, today's 2018. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, 2018.
Okay, so
Close.
maybe it's close. Maybe it started in 2013 for this person.
Ooh.
Our podcast didn't start in 2013, but maybe their
They traveled in 2013.
equations for time travel
Right.
began February 3rd, 2013.
The same year they got a new bathtub.
Yes.
That's a little joke for people who've seen the movie Displacement.
Yes.
But yeah,
Which is probably just the three of us in the entire
Yeah.
world.
I know, but maybe in this scenario, since we've spat off of the mouth so many times about time travel, maybe we were correct about the timeline stuff. And so they had to remove the podcast because we got too close.
Ooh, the Time
Yes.
Lord.
And so they had to go back in time to recover it, to
Correcting it.
figure out what we discovered.
They're like, what?
That could be.
They're just like, Prince is the key. You must travel to 2013, MM,
What
and
if-
save Prince's life.
Yeah, what if MM lives in a world where Prince
And David Bowie.
still exists?
Right. Oh my gosh.
And maybe February 3rd, 2013 is like a key point, crux in history that somehow spewed up. Maybe that's the day that Donald
Everything-
Trump decided to ruin the world. Who
Yes.
knows?
And time travel.
And time travel.
He's like, the only way I can do it is if I kill David Bowie.
Yes.
That's
I
my
believe
Trump
that.
impression.
Thank you.
If I kill him.
Yeah, I think you figured it out.
So, future pilot MM realized that the date, February 3rd, 2013, is truly a key point in history and has figured out a way to travel back in time in his or her spaceship as a pilot.
Future
and,
pilot. What kind of ship? What are we thinking here?
I mean, I picture like the F whatever's, like just the fighter pilots,
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
just like that's in my head. That's what I imagine when I think of a pilot.
Maybe like a Star Wars type ship,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm.
like an X-Wing or something. Anyway, there
so
you go.
That's that.
That's that. Way to go. Saving the world. One,
And time itself.
and time itself, yes.
MM.
Yes, thank you, MM.
Thank you. All right. So, today's, you kind of mentioned it.
Yes.
So we'll get into it. Today's episode, I picked the 2016/2017 movie,
Beneath the
Displacement. Yeah, even IMDb seems to be confused. It's called Displacement. It says 2016, but it also says it came out in 2017. So,
I mean, yeah, with the smaller
Maybe
releases.
It jumped through. It had like a little time slip of the movie.
Ooh.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, if it was made in 2016 and then they couldn't release it until 2017, there you go. That's
Yeah, it looks like maybe
small
it was in
budget.
some festivals, so that could also be why. And then maybe it had like a small release in 2017. I don't know. Anyway, so the description says a young physics student must find a way to reverse a deadly quantum time anomaly and solve the murder of her boyfriend while battling short-term memory loss and time slips caused by the event. It's written and directed by Kenneth Mader. It stars a woman named Courtney Hope. And did you guys realize? So Bruce Davison is from X-Men. He's Senator
Huh.
Kelly.
Yes, I did
Ah,
realize
okay.
that,
Yeah.
actually.
And like partway through, I was like, I know that guy from somewhere. And
I remember him being a fish person or a water person.
Yes,
Yep,
water
he
person.
turned into water and disappeared.
Slight side note, in middle school, we used to make fun of the Senator Kelly character, and we'd always, because we were just saying, like, he was, like, the perfect example of, like, a bigot, like, whatever, evil guy who was, like, racist, homophobic, whatever, and he was just like, I'm Senator Kelly. And we did that in middle school all the time, making fun of this Senator Kelly dude. Like, I'm Senator Kelly. I hate the X-Men. Mutants are bad. So, Justin Mary, if you listen to this episode, you're welcome.
I can very much see you doing that.
Yeah, worth it.
Yep. I love the X-Men, so, I'm with you. Okay, so this movie,
There's a
This
lot.
movie.
There's a lot.
at one point I almost fell asleep, and then afterwards I was very tired from the movie, not like just in general. Like
Yeah.
in general I was also a little tired, but
I mean, this movie is
this
very
movie
exhausting.
is exhausting.
Yes.
I don't fall asleep in movies, but like genuinely started to nod off because it was so draining to watch this. Not in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, safe to say we never heard of this movie or seen it before this podcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. I was drained by it, and I wouldn't say confused necessarily, because that would give this movie credit. It was more just like, why are you making these choices?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, we'll get into the rules later on, but the rules are designed to just be confusing. So I'm just like, okay, you're
Mhm.
choosing to do these things really for no logical reason other than just to confuse people.
What'd you think?
Yeah, I watched this. I rented this on YouTube. YouTube tells you how many people have watched the movie because it has views, and it was like 20 people, like 20 views.
Oh wow!
Ooh.
So not a lot of people have seen this movie, at least on YouTube. Who knows how many people have
Yeah.
seen it on Amazon?
It is streaming on Amazon Prime. That's where we watched it. So if you are interested, you can check it out there.
It was just, it's not. We'll get into this more. Like you guys said, it wasn't like, oh, it's so horrible. It's so just like maddeningly stupid. It's just boring.
Yeah.
It's a film that this has won a lot of awards at film festivals, and as someone who's gone to a lot of film festivals, I totally understand why.
Mhm.
Because you go to a film festival, you see a lot of trash at film festivals and a lot of weird movies. And this one, in a film festival setting, it has actual actors in it, like Academy Award nominated level of actors in this movie. And so you're kind of like, oh, thank goodness, this movie is like not a train wreck. And that's probably why it's won so many awards. But it was a chore.
I also think maybe it won awards because it tries to make the audience think that it's a clever movie. And I
Yeah,
think if you don't fully think about it in the way that we're about to rip it
Right.
a new butthole,
Right.
then you would say, oh wow, that movie's really complex and intelligent and doing this and that and whatever. Really, it's just a ripoff of Premonition and like every other time travel movie we've done.
It's everything's been done
It's like-
before.
It's
I mean, yeah. There's Primer in there.
Primer,
There's a
yeah.
whole bunch of stuff. They throw a lot of jargon out at you.
oh my god, it's
Even
the
a little
most
Dark City in here.
even considering that we've seen Interstellar, which there is a lot of jargon, there's a lot of science in that movie. This movie like makes that movie look like it's fucking Minutemen. Like there is so much nonsense jargon in this movie. It honestly blows my mind that someone like spent that much time coming up with different ways to say particle pairs and negation.
Well,
and
They had a quantum physics consultant on this film.
well, that's what I'm gonna say. A lot of this stuff is like real concepts, but they just mashed them all together
Right,
and was
that's what
like,
I'm-
let's just make these false equivalencies
That's what
and
I'm
make it
saying.
all. Like,
I'm not saying that the words themselves
Yeah, yeah.
are made up, like they are actual concepts, but literally like they just it's jargon because they don't really know why they're using it. I think.
Oh yeah, you can tell the actors are just like just saying.
Oh my god,
words.
the little Asian kid who's like the science kid. Like there was one point when she takes his bike at the end of the movie, and he tries to explain negation to her in some way, and I just was like, oh, you poor kid, like you have no idea what you're saying.
I felt the most sorry for Bruce Davidson because in
Yeah.
the scene right before that scene with the kid on the bike, he's like telling her like, you broke the negation point and time travel
Oh,
is
yeah.
like temporal.
Yeah, we have a clip
God.
that we'll play in a little bit of Bruce Davidson explaining that to
mom.
Cass's mom, and that's
Yeah.
he just lists off a bunch of crap.
It is
It's like vocabulary is like on a test.
Yeah.
honestly, it's yeah. So that was definitely like the biggest distraction in the movie, I'd say. Other than just the fact that it was just exhausting. But
Yeah.
let's watch the trailer. And little heads up, it's not the best trailer we've ever seen. Gonna
What?
go ahead and foreshadow that.
In my world, time is relative. But death. I woke up in an ice bath, Josh. I have no idea how I got there. Hello?
Maybe you need to let it go, Cass.
Watching your mother die kind of changes you forever, Josh.
So how is my little time thief?
Don't call me that.
Why? You're not still trying to steal back time for your mother?
I hope it wasn't a mistake bringing you here.
It's therapy. Confront my demons, right?
Did this Cassandra look like she might be an older version of herself?
What?
Quantum mechanics isn't weird.
Oh, it's super weird.
Particle pairs destroy themselves in a vacuum almost instantaneously. Makes time travel impossible.
You can't travel in time without changes in causation. Did you think there'd be no consequences?
No one's figured out how to do it yet.
But someone has.
What part of screwed don't you understand? We're on the verge of a massive metastability event.
Time is fractured. It's been shifting all around me. Oh my god!
I am trying to save lives.
So am I.
No! Stay away from me! You stay away!
You must remember the equation.
None of them are stable, none of them are complete.
You'll never have a future if you cling too hard to the past.
You think they work. Just like my father, you think these equations actually work.
Cassie, no!
I cannot trust you with that equation.
Then trust yourself.
I know.
I mean,
How many people watched that trailer and let him keep that dumb clip at the end? Oh my god, just end it where you have the title. Oh my god,
I mean,
that's
yeah, it's
so
already
terrible.
over 2 minutes, and it's very exhausting to watch the trailer.
Well, just like
A
putting
trailer
that
is a
terrible...
metaphor for the movie.
Right, it so is. Like, when you're making a trailer, if you put a clip after the movie title, that's fine, but, like, it needs to be, like either really funny or, like very sharp, something
Very intense.
impactful.
Like maybe if she like
intense.
tried to stab her and then he grabs it, then you can stop and then you can cut there. But
Or,
the
like,
whole
show the shot of her, like, putting the gun on herself or something.
Right.
Like, but
Yeah.
that is... Ugh.
It's, yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's a pretty accurate trailer for the movie.
Yes,
Like,
it is an
it's not
accurate trailer.
misleading. It's exhausting like the movie is. Like, watching that is very similar to watching the movie. Like,
Yeah.
oftentimes we're like, oh, very misleading, but that was accurate and how it feels.
That's true. You're right on that, Matt. That is, I cannot fault you there.
Wait, so, okay, let's just get right into this time travel, because I think it's going to be a lengthy conversation. So,
Yeah, basically, there's a bunch of science people that deal with science and technology.
mhm.
They're all related,
Yes.
and Cassandra, the main character, is the first one to do it, and then she fucks everything up. And there you are. That's where we are at the start of the movie.
Yeah, they do, especially in the beginning, they try and confuse you on purpose, so you
Right.
kind of don't know where we're at in time. And I get that. It's a big trope, though, and it just felt too obvious to be interesting for me.
Right.
How they made it, it was like it was too clear when it was a flashback or, or like her present day. It
Right.
needed to be the same, so we were kind of jarred with her,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of lacked that. And so the beginning of the movie, I was like, okay, this is a flashback. Okay, this is where she's at. Okay, this happens after this. Whatever, she's in this warehouse after the hotel stuff. Like, it's all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, kind of jumping off, it didn't feel interesting enough for me to care. I will say, I felt that as the lead, she wasn't the worst part of the movie.
No,
I agree. I think Courtney Hope did a fine job with what she was giving. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't like annoyed by her acting. You know what I
No.
mean?
Right.
So that's which is a good thing, and that's compliments to her. But yeah,
I don't know if she was necessarily a strong lead, but she was one of the stronger characters in the movie.
Right. This movie was nothing that really knocked about the movie is because of her acting.
Yeah.
It's just she everyone. I mean, the trailer says like, Emmy winner, Golden Globe winner, or like nominee and like Oscar nominee. Like, these are good actors, but they are saddled with a script that is so
just saturated.
Yeah, like you just could never maybe with maybe with some more vision in the directing, possibly. But even then, there's the effect in the script that just really weighs this movie down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's long. It's almost a 2-hour movie, and it's about 20 to 30 minutes too long.
Yeah, it needed to be an hour and a half for sure. By the time she was like going through the second time and seeing like the duplicate of herself, I was like, oh my god, there's still like an hour of this movie left. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, like, we always try to like say, oh yeah, you should explain your time travel more. This is like the extreme of like what we don't want to see of like you explaining your movie. Because it's like you can have the same concepts and have the same kind of scenarios played out and not have it be 5-minute long conversations about quantum entanglement and just like, boil it down to what would be better for the viewer to watch, and then like just
it was kind of it had too much of what I disliked the most about Primer was it tried to be too smart for the audience on purpose.
Right.
Like the writer of which that's a whole other thing, and if you want to hear me rant about Primer, feel free to listen to that episode because I won't get into the whole thing now. But like in Primer, I had a big problem because a movie is supposed to be made for audiences to follow along. I mean, and that's not saying that like every single person in the audience has to understand every single part of your movie. I'm a big fan of like very
Being
intelligent, challenging movies like
Memento or whatever.
Yeah, and like those kind of complex situations or things that we don't know all the information, that's fine. But I'm saying a movie like Primer, a movie like this, wanted to keep the audience in the dark to make itself look smarter and not give the audience enough to be able to grasp on with it.
Yeah.
It's fine to have more complex subjects that the audience maybe goes over their head a little bit. But when it's to the point of just exhaustion, like Displacement, there's too many convoluted subjects. It needs
Yeah.
to just be much more clear, have like 2 or 3 of the concepts, not like 15 different scientific concepts, and like get into those so that we understand them. There's also no example of like an everyman in this movie, and I think
Right.
that's also a really big mistake. There isn't anyone we follow who doesn't understand heavy science.
Yeah.
And that's, if there was someone like that, it doesn't even have to be the lead. I think it's great to have a woman scientist lead. We never see that. That's awesome. But without someone who doesn't really understand what's going on, it's hard for the audience to kind of keep up with what the characters are
Yeah,
doing.
and some scenes she is that a little bit because she's trying to figure out her too because her memory's all messed up. But yeah, I agree. It's especially drawing the comparison to Primer, where at least in that where we didn't know stuff, I felt like the director and writer of that movie at least mapped it out behind the scenes. Like you can explain it. There's a way to actually trace everything back. This one, it seems like the stuff that we don't see. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it. It's just something where he was, saying, "Oh yeah, we should have another one in there. Let's toss another one in there." And don't worry, it's a different past. It's a different timeline now. So it's just it's different now. So it doesn't feel like we're in good hands behind the scenes.
Yes, I agree with that, but I do kind of disagree with what you're saying that she sometimes is not the everyman, but is trying to figure things out. She is trying to figure things out, but I don't really feel that she's suffering from short-term memory loss. She's just trying to figure out when in time she is. I mean, correct me if you guys feel that I'm wrong, but I never caught a glimpse of her memory fading. In fact, it was kind of the opposite. She was gaining
not
more
fading,
she
but
was
like
gaining
she doesn't
more knowledge as she was going along.
Like she doesn't. She figures stuff out, and then later on, she figured out that she figured it out already. So, like, her memory, her mind is kind of out of time, too. That's what I mean.
Yeah, my argument with that was, I don't think when she's in the moment, I agree, you don't feel like she has short-term memory loss. It's not played up enough, but the way the plot unravels, you realize that she has done stuff that she now forgets because the timeline has changed.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, I mean, it's not like Memento, where like she's aware of the fading memory. It's just more of like this, which to kind of say, you're talking about like you want to be challenged. Like I had a screenwriting professor one time who said there's a difference between being challenged and being like laborious, something that is just like you can't even think straight. You just are trying to figure it out, but not in a fun way. A good example of a movie like that, where you're trying to figure it out the entire way, Predestination was a movie that we saw. It's a very straightforward mystery, but it's still a mystery. It's a challenging mystery because you really have to pay attention. But I had fun doing it. There was never a point where I was like, oh my gosh, speed this up, get over this conversation. And that movie is one giant time travel conversation. That movie is literally two people sitting at a table talking about time travel.
Yeah.
But I was entertained the whole time.
Yeah.
The conversations here don't tell me anything about the characters. They don't tell me anything about the plot or the situation. It's just, here's a new problem, solve it. When she throws away the equation into the fireplace, the father, the guy, he just kind of puts his arm on the fireplace and he's like, that was our only chance. He's not really upset about it. He's about as upset as if, your kid spilled over like some milk. You know what I mean? Like he's been working on this for a long time. So
and you didn't copy the notes?
Right,
Whatever.
you didn't copy, like, all of it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't tell me anything about the characters, maybe a little bit about her, that she's willing to burn it. But that's it.
And the biggest thing is that, you're right, all the characters are kind of the same character. They're all, maybe other than her, she has a little bit more personality than everyone else.
Yeah.
But pretty much
Like
every single other person in the movie.
The two dads
is
are the same.
Dads.
And even Josh and like the throwaway boyfriend, literally everyone else in the movie is the same character. They're all science guys working for the government, trying to take this, theory or this equation from her and whatever and use it for government funds or something. and like that, but that's every single one of these characters, whether it's like the woman who's like questioning her,
Brian's mom.
Brian's it's every
or her
single
real mom.
Yeah. And I want to get into the boyfriend because that's a whole big problem in this movie. But
what about his cool goatee?
oh my god. But you're right. And I think this movie lacks a mystery, kind of like Predestination. Like towards the end of the movie, I was trying to figure out like, what am I waiting for to happen? You know?
Yeah,
what
whole the time anomaly ends up being, that's it's all built into her trying to stop this anomaly. But yeah, like scene to scene, it's more just like, okay, now she's being interrogated, and now she's trying to like not kill her boyfriend, and now she's trying to stop them from getting her equation. It's just like,
Yeah, but I just think you're right. Like the anomaly, but the stakes of the anomaly, I didn't really understand. Okay, maybe because she can save her boyfriend that she literally couldn't give less of a shit about. Okay, but it needed to be something for her. Like I was hoping that like, okay, she would sacrifice herself Looper style, and then like everyone else's life would go back to normal because she's the one who knows the equation.
Right.
That should have, honestly, I think that's how the movie should have ended. But instead it was kind of just like back to the beginning, and then the boyfriend's still alive, and she like kind of has deja vu and feels like she shouldn't do it right then.
Well, they almost did it, because at one point they kind of saw, because the problem with Looper that I had, spoiler alert, is that the solution is so simple, you're like, well, how did he never just think to do that? Right. You know, literally at the point, the entire concept of the film relies on someone's ability to commit suicide. Now, or sacrifice themselves. But with this, it was cool that she actually had to kill herself. Mm-hmm. But then the movie gives us a Deus Ex Machina where they both just pretty much die. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. And then resets the clock.
I totally agree with you. I think there should have been some sort of a rule that, like, it had to, like, she had to kill herself at that moment. Right. Yeah. And that's, like, at the anomaly, and that's the only way she can stop it, because otherwise the loop would just continue whether it's in this hotel room or at a different time. Eventually it would happen again. Because I don't believe, which is kind of what I believe, like, I don't think that just because she didn't do it this one time doesn't mean she's not still going to want to do it. Right. She didn't really, I mean, she had some vague, I wouldn't even call them memories, but, like, feelings almost about it. But like, maybe she just had, like, traumatic memories about that hotel room. You know, it could have been like that. Like this, you know, she doesn't necessarily have all the information from what happened. And so she could misinterpret her feeling like, okay, maybe it's just like bad juju in this hotel room, so I'm going to do it somewhere else where I feel safer. In my mom's house. We can't do this
at Ramada. We're going to do this at a Best Western. I'm not liking the vibe.
But you know, I mean, it sounds silly, but you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I mean...
As a scientist, I would think that's... Ultimately, she would eventually try and do it anyway.
Yeah, like the whole end scene where she's like about to do it and about to hit play and all that stuff. And she's like, oh, wait, no. Like, you're right. She could have walked into the room and said, no, we can't do this here, or whatever, you know. But, yeah, the whole resolution, they're back in the hotel room. It's a random time of the day in the future after they've done it, and that's when she has to be there. Like, the whole negation point, that's what they're all driving towards. Why is that
a
point that's in the future, that's a random time in the place that's in the hotel room that she has to just be there for?
Right. I didn't understand that either, because it's the time that the boyfriend dies from a heart attack? We don't really know how he died,
Yeah,
honestly.
he just kind of starts dying.
It was almost like it was a consequence, I would say, if I had to stretch.
He was like, no, my Axe body spray has poisoned me.
That's what it was pretty much, that's what it looked like.
Right, and she had been coughing up blood for days that we saw, and she was fine.
Well, I thought that at one point I was like, oh, he's been time traveling as well, and he's...
Right. That's what I thought too, and then I was like, wait, but they never show that.
Why wasn't the fake homeless guy who was her dad, why wasn't it the fake homeless guy her boyfriend? Why wasn't that like, I've been time traveling too this whole time, and then twirl that amazing mustache he has? Like,
Right. Too many different factors. Since we were talking about the boyfriend, I have a big problem with just how they kind of presented him in the movie. First of all, it was like, I honestly thought, I was like, is this like a Bonnie and Clyde situation in the beginning of the movie? They were like talking about drugs, and they were like, she was speaking in like some weird like southern drawl for a few lines, and I was like, okay, this is strange. And I was like, okay, these are just like drugged out people who got a hotel room. That's honestly what I thought.
Yeah, she was
And then
like,
all
"Am
of a
I
sudden-
high on pot?"
No,
I feel like I'm tripping on acid.
And then he goes, "We haven't scored in over a month. Are you feel, you know?" And I was just like, "What is this movie?" Like, okay. And then all of a sudden, she's like this science
This
physics genius. What?
PhD student.
What on earth? And like that's pretty much all we get of the boyfriend. In other timelines, when she's a few days before he dies, he's MIA. There's
Right.
like a couple times that she tries to call him and he doesn't answer.
Yeah,
But he's just not around.
Yeah, but literally, he's the son of the lady that works at the initiative who's interrogating her and is also actively trying to get the equation from her or whatever. And he has a gun and has the notebook, and it's just...
No, okay, so this is what I mean, I could be wrong. I thought that the backpack under the bed actually belonged to her dad. Wasn't the boyfriend.
Because he was sneaking around.
Because at the end she catches her dad making the ice bath. And so at that time, I assumed he had put it there maybe to frame the boyfriend or something.
But she and the boyfriend talked about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm doing this for us or whatever." It's like he knew that the gun was in there. He wasn't surprised to find the bag. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's my bag."
You're right.
He was like, they had a whole conversation, and she was like, "Why do you have my notebook?" And he's like, "I'm trying to like do this because we need to like stop it all or whatever." And he's like, "You're the only one that can do it." And it's just like, why is he involved now?
It's also very strange because he's not a science guy.
Right.
He's a car mechanic, and presumably shouldn't really understand the science. And he could have been our everyman,
Right.
but he's not in the movie at all.
Instead, there's Josh.
This is also the problem.
Who the fuck is
Instead,
Josh?
there's Josh, who at the end is in love with her the whole time, and
Right.
that's what he was doing. But he...
Friend zoned by the car mechanic.
Right, but he was already working at this evil company.
He's a genius as well, of course.
It is so confusing.
And she had no idea he worked at the company. She had to Google the company and his name.
Right.
Like, you guys have been friends since you were kids.
It's insane.
That's why he's in the friend zone, man. He's like, she doesn't even care about him. She doesn't even pay attention to what he says in the conversations.
Yeah, and I don't know. When did they say they've been friends since they were kids? Was it when they were at the diner? Because
No, I think it was in the hotel or whatever.
It was at the end of the movie. Okay, because for a long
like that.
time, that makes sense. For a long time, every time he's on the screen, I'm like, how do they know each other? What is their relationship? It is never established in the proper way.
Yeah, she just calls him up and is like, "Can you meet me for coffee at RJ's Cafe?"
It's like either make him the boyfriend or make him an ex-boyfriend. Or, like, a best friend or something. But, like, at least establish some sort of a connection. At one point I was like, maybe they're just, like, science partners? But she doesn't work at that company.
Yeah.
He does.
He's, like...
She just, like, is in college? Or, like, finished her thesis?
I think she's getting her PhD, so she's probably, like, 25. If she graduated at 22 or 23, and she's in the program for 4 years, she's probably, like, mid to late 20s. But getting her PhD, I would imagine. She's not, like...
Okay.
A 21-year-old. I think she's, like, getting her PhD.
But then I feel like... that's fine. But I feel like then they should have established that she and Josh... Like, show me a flashback, even, of, like, she and Josh working on these equations together during college. And that's how they met. And he graduated already and got this job at this place. And she lost contact with him. Or some sort of something. Or didn't, because she still talks to him. Or doesn't know about his life. Or ask him any personal questions at all ever. I don't know. Even though she literally... okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I just can't.
The way that the character relationships are in the movie and what they factually are in the story, they don't match up. You know, like...
No.
They've been friends forever, and then these dads and moms and, like, everyone's involved in this company that, like, no one else knows about.
Even her mom... who has died, like, there's a flashback of her mom talking to Senator Kelly, who, that's what I'm going to refer to him as.
Senator Kelly.
Senator
Yeah,
Kelly.
that works.
Even her mom somewhat understands science-y stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we had the clip for it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, on that note, the way that the mom stuff works into the timeline doesn't make sense unless she died a year ago or whatever. It seemed like everything that we watched happened in the span of a couple days, because at one point there's 3 of Cassandra running around. So that's all like in the same day. Then that everything that we've seen is like all in the, like, I don't know, on like a Friday, but at one point she's on a Tuesday. I don't know. But when did the mom die? That like yeah, but like Senator Kelly had the equations at the same chalkboard that they had on that same week. So obviously he didn't change that chalkboard or whatever. But it felt like it was all on the same day. But then her mom was then thrown in the mix. And
well, I didn't ever see it as being on the same day. I figured it was kind of like in. I don't know if either of you guys have seen the movie Premonition, but in that movie, it kind of takes place over the span of like a week, and she kind of jumps in between different times within that week, and that's kind of what I assumed that this movie was doing.
But there were
like,
literally
Friday,
three of them.
Sometimes it was Tuesday.
No, but there were literally three at the same time. She was in the cafe, she was being interrogated, and she was running around after being interrogated, all the same day. And that's all we saw in the movie. All those events were all happening at the same time. Like, literally, she's there, and there. So, but there may have been jumps outside of that day when she's, like, waking up in an ice bath or whatever, because she does jump around a little bit. But those big events, they all happen on the same day. She's there. She's, like, in the background. She's wearing the hoodie. She's, like, in the background of the house. And then she's, in the office while she's... Yeah, she's also out there running from the custodian while she's in the office looking at her dad's files.
Custodian with a syringe.
But I mean, I think it is that she jumps two other times because one time it was Friday and then it was Tuesday.
Well, I know, that's what I mean. Like, it's inconsistent because, yeah, it is Tuesday and Friday, but then all those events, there's three of her at the same day. Like, literally, she runs to three of her different selves in the same, like, she just runs from point A to point B and there's three of her. So that's what I mean, it's inconsistent.
You're right.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's all on the same day.
No.
I mean,
those events are the same day.
Please stop yelling at me. Good fucking God. Chill out, I understand. I'm saying not every single event we ever see in the entire movie is on one day. I'm saying, yes, most of the events are taking place on the same day.
Yeah,
but not
that's what I
every
also
single
said.
one of them.
I know,
so then why are you yelling at me?
Because those events, those are like the big events in the movie.
I see what's going on, kind of. I mean, even though it's very headache-inducing. I think I know what you're saying, yes. So basically what you're saying is we are seeing multiple days in the movie. However, she goes back to these days multiple times. They're not all. She's not just reliving the same Friday every time. She's reliving Tuesday. She's also reliving Wednesday and Thursday and bits of Sunday and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But the problem that creates is, when did the mom die? Because she's not jumping years. She's jumping a very short period of time.
Right.
Not a day, but certainly enough that her mom has not died this recently.
No, I agree with that. There is one point, and maybe it's in the clip, but he does say, like, maybe you could even travel years or something. He does allude to it.
Well, yeah.
But we don't necessarily see that. I mean, we see her interact with her mom because it's more dramatic for the story, but you're right, I don't think we really see enough of, like, a literal jump that's a big enough effect to have been years.
Well, I mean, yeah, so the mom stuff is separate from what I was saying about the Friday day, whatever. But yeah, the mom stuff, at one point, she does go back to that day where she's at the beach, which is before she dies, which depending on when she actually died, that's how far back she went, a year or whatever, let's say. And then there's another one of her there. So, like, there's two versions of her that went back to visit her mom at the beach. One that brought her to the beach, and then one that saw her after she went back to the car at the beach.
Right.
Unless she forgot that she took her to the beach. Because she has this guilt of never taking her to the beach. So either she did and forgot it, or in some of the timeline, she went back and brought her to the beach and then went away, and then the one that we followed went and visited her, where she gave her the time turner necklace.
I don't think it... Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really seem to make sense because we still see the memory of the mom talking to Senator Kelly, and she remembered going to the beach.
Yeah.
And she didn't... I mean, she also didn't look like she was, like, about to kick the bucket either, by the way.
Right.
Like, at least put some, like, makeup on her face to make her look pale and, like,
also,
bags
I mean, if you're going to do something like that, like, something, like, as debilitating as cancer, because if they wanted to, like, you have to show progression, which is actually a good marker to show where someone is health-wise.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to do that, then it needs to be something very sudden, like car accident or, like, skiing accident gone wrong, you know, something like that. Like, you can't do something. She looks fine, and...
Maybe she even I mean, this is kind of a lot, but like for this movie, you know, maybe she had cancer and then, you know, on the day that she was gonna take her to the beach, you know, the mom instead like drove herself and was hit by a drunk driver or something because Cassandra was caught up in her work at school. Something like that.
Yeah, that could
even
work.
you know, and then the mom ended up dying, and so she feels the guilt because she wasn't the one who actually like drove her mom,
Yeah.
and she felt like that could have maybe saved her or something.
Actually, that would work.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's kind of a lot, but at least
It's a lot in this movie, but,
But-
it could actually be very good in another film.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
definitely it would make more sense than her mom just being like, "I'm gonna be gone soon,"
Yeah.
and then in the future she's just gone. You know,
Right.
like her I don't know, her daughter just wasn't there when she
Yeah.
died, but she said she saw her die.
yeah. I mean, despite you yelling at me, yes,
Okay.
it's
Granted, my voice did raise, but I was defending myself because I felt like I was being attacked for what I
It
was
was,
saying.
it was a spirited debate.
I
It was a spirited debate.
I never disagreed with you that there were 3 of her on this one day, and that most of those events took place then. But all I'm saying, and I'm not arguing with that. All I'm saying is that there should have been clearer rules, maybe, of how to either jump like farther back or, you know, maybe more like bloodier noses the farther she goes from, like, if it's 2 days versus 2 hours. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Something
I agree
to-
that it's shitty. But she did at one point say that her nose bleeds when she's near herself, which was like a throwaway line that was like, oh, but her nose bleeds whenever it wants to.
What we like to call in the trio the almanac problem.
Yeah.
The duplicate almanac problem. It's like, oh, they start glitching out, or maybe they get weaker, or in this case, she starts bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
She turns into 11 from Stranger Things.
Yes, except without the
Cool stuff.
cool stuff. Yeah. She, I just think there didn't need to be a Josh and a boyfriend separately. It was way too much. And I also didn't understand what Josh was doing. Like, he was working for Miller, was that her name? Mills or something? Was working for her at this company, but then he also wanted to help Cassie. But how is he helping her? I didn't understand enough of that, which is why I think Josh should have been the boyfriend.
Well, yeah, I mean, at some point, everyone says that they're trying to help Cassie. So it's like everyone's trying to help
Right.
her, but then everyone's working against her, or she's doing her own thing. But, like, her dad, Brian's mom, Josh, Brian, they're all like, I'm trying to help you. You can solve this. We need your equations to solve this. But everyone's like, but it's like counteracting itself at the same, like, scenes, pretty much.
I wonder if I wonder if the writer meant it to be some sort of symbolism of like, oh, he's, this is like when someone needs to grieve, but they can't, and everyone's trying to like help them grieve, but it's all different ways, and it all doesn't seem to be effective. I wonder, I mean,
Could be.
maybe. I would not be surprised if that was what the writer was going for.
I think she should have had more emotional torment over her mom, or somehow her mom's death should have affected things more than they did.
Right.
I mean, I guess kind of her relationship with her dad, but even that was kind of messed up before that, it seemed like. I don't know.
Yeah, her dad, like, left.
Yeah, the
But he was there.
The relationship with the dad was strange, and I didn't understand that, like, he was still living in the house. I mean, I guess it made sense, but, like, it seemed to me that the house was just kind of, like, empty, or maybe she lived there.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like, she goes, "Oh, you've been upstairs this whole time?" And I was like, wait, what? I thought the dad left, and now did he come back because the mom died? It was very weird.
We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. Speaking of which, let's play this clip.
Oh, yeah.
This may seem like an odd question, but did this Cassandra look like she might be an older version of herself?
What?
Are you familiar with closed time-like curves?
I think Charles might have mentioned them, but no.
Well, Einstein's relativity theory describes gravity as the warping of space-time by energy and matter. So therefore, a powerful gravitational field or even possibly an electromagnetic field could conceivably bend time back upon itself, creating a loop or a closed time-like curve. Now, enter the loop tomorrow, and theoretically, you could come back out today or last year.
I'm sorry, what does this have to do with Cassie?
Well, we've been running simulations to resolve the grandfather paradox, and we experienced an unusual electromagnetic pulse at the school that was triggered remotely. We were unable to locate the source, but I suspect someone may have taken our simulations a step further.
Meaning?
The equations in your daughter's thesis notes may have actually solved the paradox. But they're untested, and now they're missing, and you said Charles has been absent. Could he have taken them and induced an entanglement?
I suppose, but I highly doubt he would risk it. A man may be a lot of things, but reckless is not one of them.
Well, nevertheless, he must be found. The slightest miscalculation could cause all manner of troubles. Recurring time slips, loops within loops, causality trying to self-rectify. It's very dangerous.
One, it just feels very much like they're acting and don't really know what's going on. But two, I didn't catch that when I was watching the movie, but he was saying, like, they saw some sort of something at the school.
Electromagnetic pulse, yeah.
And, like, that's how they knew it was Cassie?
Well,
But
they
see,
said it was remote.
Yeah, but in the video that she shot of herself in the hotel room where she's like accessing remotely. That was that moment. But this time is when her mom is alive, which is
So
like a year ago.
So the hotel is at the school then?
No, I mean maybe it's near it, but yeah, she says that her laptop is wired into the software or whatever. She's like says a bunch of stuff in the video before she hits the initiate sequence. But like in this moment where she's talking to Senator Kelly, her mom's alive, which is like, I don't know, a year ago. Mm-hmm. So the anomaly arrived then?
Yes, yeah. So wait, so she and Josh were in that hotel a year ago and her mom hadn't died yet?
I think they initiated the anomaly in the future after her mom died. But since it was like a time thing, maybe it also appeared in the past because, I mean, she did arrive to talk to her mom then. So maybe that was the first time they noticed it because that's as far back as she went.
I mean, to make sense, to be fair, I suppose, whenever she does time travel, the sky changes, everything gets a little crazy, there's some shaking. So maybe when she goes back to the time that she's in currently, this timeline, that happened as well. And they are still in the process of writing the simulations, not testing it. And that is what alerts him to the possibility that someone has time travel. Because if you're working on time travel, which is actually something we don't see done a lot in time travel movies we've reviewed. If you're working on time travel 10 years before you actually discover time travel, I guess you wouldn't be super shocked if all of a sudden one day someone from the future came and said, hey, in 9 years, you invent time travel. Like, you're like, oh, okay, because you're working on it currently.
Yeah.
So you know it's always a possibility it can happen.
But here's my problem with what you guys are saying, and that's true that maybe there was some sort of something because that's the time that she jumped back to in the past. But that had just happened like maybe an hour before this conversation. There's no way that like he would have already figured out what it is, know where it came from, like have all of this information. Like what he's telling her, I'm under the impression that it happened at least a week ago, if not like maybe months.
And he's working on it now.
And then they're kind of trying to figure out.
Yeah.
There's no way it's only been like an hour. She's in the same clothes. It literally just happened, and she's freaked out about it because it just happened, and so that's why she's talking to him.
You're right.
So, not to disprove your theory.
Yeah,
but,
no,
but
that also makes it inconsistent. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would say if anything, maybe they were testing it at that point.
Yeah.
And that could be why. I mean, it's obviously like, I would think that the first time they tried it is not going to work perfectly. So,
yeah. I mean, like this movie is very frustrating, and it's turning us against ourselves. Yeah. So this is
damn you, Displacement.
It's not a good movie.
Displacing our friendship.
Yeah. This is not a good movie.
No, it's not. But it is. I mean,
It's ambitious.
It is ambitious. No, I do like, though, movies that allow us to, even though it's like we're ripping the movie apart, at least we can have these types of conversations about, like, there is enough for us to, like, discuss.
Right, this isn't us having to, like, really, like, okay, let's stress this episode.
Right, it's not like Time Bandits, where it was like,
Fill the hour.
like grasping at straws. Like, this movie, at least, you know, I will give it that. It was, as you said, ambitious.
Yeah, and
try.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. It really swung for the fences. I think if they
hit a foul.
Yeah, if they really like sat down and made it tighter in terms of like made it like purposely less confusing, like as opposed to having it end up being her face herself with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Like tighten it up and make it, you know, I don't know.
If they made it more about the characters and less about the science, it would have been a much more successful movie. Because I was hoping, when we were like going into this, I wanted to really like this movie, because even, you know, obviously there's movies like Predestination and Triangle that ended up being excellent that we wouldn't have watched otherwise, that were really great. And then there's also movies like what's the camera one?
Time Lapse,
yeah.
Like that one, it was not a great movie, and like there was definitely a lot of problems with it, but like at least that concept like was interesting. It was a movie that I didn't feel like was a waste of my time necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much wrote the sequel while we were filming the episode, or recording the episode.
Like in Time Lapse, I was very interested and could, and you're right, we talked about it, but like we could explore that concept more. Something like this, there's not enough for us to go on. You need stronger characters and more depth to them, and like, you know, I wish that Josh was a female friend. I think that maybe would have helped a little bit, because it didn't make sense for her to like, oh, I'm having these problems, let me talk to Josh instead of like my boyfriend.
Right.
I didn't understand that. Or maybe it's because she tried to talk to Brian and he basically like laughed at her, which I'm like, girl, if he doesn't like believe any of your weird science things that you're inventing, then like, why are you dating this guy?
Right.
He does drugs with you. You can do so much better. Not Josh, but like anyone else.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's a lot of issues. I mean, again, it is a movie you want to be good because you see the potential there. Mm-hmm. And we also we talked about this many times, there are not a lot of time travel movies where a woman is the main character and she does actual time travel.
Yep.
For some reason, time travel as a genre does not really like women. And this is a movie that gives women a lot of agency. Even the freaking mom, who's dead, has a lot of agency in this movie.
And I mean, Brian's mom, the scientist, she was an like, if we had kind of explored her more a little bit, could have been interesting. There was too many characters and not enough of any of them.
Yeah.
And they're all too connected.
And they're all the same.
Yeah.
You don't need 6 different scientist characters in this movie. 6. You guys, 6. That's too many.
And they're all
and there's only 7 people in the movie.
And they're all pretty much related to each other in some way.
Right.
It's weird. Yeah. And so and I also was trying to think, like, did Brian's dad introduce Cassie and Brian? Or how did they meet, you know? Because
the lore of Displacement.
It had to have been, because otherwise that would be very, like, strange coincidence that Brian's dad does the same type of quantum physics, mechanics, whatever that she does, and they're doing the same thing. Like, it's,
Here's a tip. If you're going to have a bunch of scientists in a movie, have them all be different types of scientists. Like, I am the physics scientist. Oh, really? You're the physics scientist? Like, I am the quantum mechanics scientist. I'm the nuclear fission scientist. Like, you know, you got to mix it up.
Yeah, and not just like a scientist and then some guy whose job it is to sit at a computer and wait for Cassie's blog videos to come in, which, by the way, blog videos, really?
Yeah.
My God, it's so dumb. Yeah. Okay, so, I think we touched on the how and the rules.
Yeah, I mean, like, just to boil it down, basically, there's a time anomaly that's sending Cassie back and forth in time. They can initiate sometimes. Like, they sent her back.
Didn't they say that it had to be her for some reason? And that's why it didn't work with Brian's dad?
I think she was the one that did the first one. Like,
it was like her...
She's the origin point.
It's like tied to her.
Some sort of something about her.
They call it the negation point, but it's really the point of origin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, the negation point is where she did the first thing in their hotel room. So at least in that sense, it kind of ties together. But yeah, the time at which she has to be there and her just being there to fuse into herself again, I don't know.
It didn't really make sense.
Yeah, but basically, time is jumping around. She's being jumped around, and
yeah, she can't control it. And really, the biggest consequences though are more. One, I guess maybe some memory loss a little bit, but...
yeah, it's killing her.
But only because she is near herself. Like, would it not kill her if she had done it once and then, like, went, like, the other side of the world from where her duplicate is?
Probably not. It does seem like, because when she finally gets close to face with her duplicate, they just explode, essentially.
Right. So, like, the farther apart they are... I mean, we probably have talked about this before. This sounds familiar, this conversation, but I don't know. Maybe eventually it would catch up to them, but it could delay the process.
Yeah, maybe, but it seems like once she cracked open the time travel, I don't know, whatever.
Broke the seal?
Yeah, whatever broke the seal, it sounds like it was off its axis, like in Lost. You know how they jumped around the island?
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like, it would just send her around, because, until she went back to the negation point and then, like...
That's a good comparison, actually. Yeah.
Like, the wheel was off, what was it? Mule? Camel? Not a camel.
What?
The mule wheel? Whatever, they had to turn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the donkey wheel?
Donkey wheel.
It's like mule wheel?
Camel, mule, donkey. The donkey wheel was off its axis.
No, you're right. That's probably the closest type of time travel to this.
Yeah, so let's start with our Lost. If you want to see this done in a better way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at least in Lost, that was consistent. Like, whatever changes happened in the past, they always happened. In this, you can change things.
Kind of. You can.
Yeah, there's multiple different timelines that we see, but she does change things.
She does change things, but a lot of times things
had already happened.
Happened because she was there.
Yeah, it seems like the first time we see a timeline is she was already there, like, because we see her when she takes the key card. In that moment where I rewatched the scene, she actually bumps into Josh. The first time around, you see like a hooded person bump into him.
Oh, okay.
But in that moment, she wrote "Find the initiative," and then we see it again, and she does the same thing, except she wrote "Josh is a liar." So we don't know what that change did, but that was a different timeline. But the first time through, she was already there in the past.
Right.
That's true. We don't see the effect of that. I guess maybe she doesn't go to him for help again after that.
Probably not. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know how that would change
things. Which causes him to be more paranoid.
Yeah, the cause and effect isn't really illustrated. We just things just change and then
they kind of
she's
just make the timelines and then kind of try and forget about them after they've made them.
Yeah,
so it feels like instead of just like following a couple of them through would have been much more interesting.
Yeah, we just know that there's several different timelines, several different hers, and at some point, two of her end up in the hotel room,
right,
facing off, and then they merge together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like behind the scenes. Like I just can't imagine the logic behind the scenes where that all makes sense. I just think he was like, oh yeah, this is all happening in different timelines, and at the end it all ties up,
right?
Funnels together.
Which is how I drew the comparison between Primer. It's like Primer, there is a theme behind the scenes. This one, I'm like, there isn't. It's just
no. But
nonsense.
In both movies, I would say the writer-director feels that his concepts are more intelligent than an average audience is allowed to understand.
Yeah, and way more than they should be.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, yeah, consequences we did talk about, obviously, when she's close to herself, there's more physical consequences.
Yeah.
We never really understand why Brian deals with physical consequences of it. He just does. And it's never explained.
Yeah, unless he had like a time bomb in his body that was going off, like a medical time bomb, where like he had this aneurysm in his brain that was going to go off, and maybe that's why she said go to urgent care, because it was going to happen either way. But
okay, if that was
but that's not implied,
right? If that was that's what I was going to say. You're right. That's what I was going to say. Is if that was the case, that would be a very easy explanation, and maybe that's what they were trying to imply by saying go to urgent care.
Yeah.
Is that maybe, you're right, maybe he does suffer some sort of aneurysm or some sort of heart thing or something. Or maybe, like, his dad had tested on him or, so there could have been so many ways they could have played that.
But yeah, the way that it looks in the movie is he's having what she's having, but to the extreme.
Right.
You know?
But we never have seen him time traveled.
It's just typical, this will happen to you.
Yeah.
Things. Maybe OD'd. Does a lot of
Yeah,
drugs.
yeah.
But they haven't scored in months.
They didn't score in months.
A month, not
A
months.
month.
Oh, a month.
Well, only been 1 month.
Oh, that's eternity.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the scientific accuracy of this film is, I'm going to take a wild guess to say the terminology is real and everything else is, like, BS.
Yeah, there's no black holes, there's no wormholes. She just hits a button on a laptop and then she wakes up in an ice bath.
Off of Wi-Fi. Incredible Wi-Fi
Yeah,
service,
right.
my add.
So when she hits the button, the very first time when she hits the computer,
Yeah.
and she wakes up in the ice bath, she's then in the future?
Yes.
I don't know if that's clear, honestly. I think the past, because there's more than one of her at some point, but it's really complicated. Or not complicated, it's really convoluted.
Yeah,
It's
you're right.
better.
She would have gone to the past to see her mom again, so...
But it's like, the first time
But
she does
then-
it, where does she end up? And then what does she
Right,
do
that's
to
what I'm
make it
saying.
all...
That's true. Maybe that's not necessarily the first time she does it when we see her
Yeah.
wake up in the ice bath.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the first scene in the movie, I don't think that may not be the first. It probably isn't because, yeah, all the stuff was written down and, yeah.
Right.
But, yeah,
That's
the
true.
video of her hitting it for the first time, you know, I guess the technology is at the school and she puts in the coordinates to find where she's at the hotel room, I guess. But in the hotel room, there's no technology. It's just a laptop and an ice bath.
Mhm.
There's no, like, time travel, you know, black hole creation machine.
And
You
what
know?
what happens to her when she hits it? Why don't we ever see that?
It flashes and then it goes to static
It's
because...
very lost, I guess.
I don't know. It's just the actual scientific accuracy is high, like you said. It's just the jargon.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's whatever she's wearing gets traveled back with her. Her hands that have blood on them, she still has the blood on them. So whatever is on her person, like her phone, she keeps her phone and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, it all travels with her. But we don't see a field around her. We don't see a black hole that she walks into. She just kind of wakes up in an ice bath.
For sure. Okay, so, you know.
It's very relevant to the story.
It is relevant to the story. It frustrates me when there's movies like this and I'm like, I have these questions that I want to be able to answer, even to like theorize an answer. And when it's a movie like this, that like there's these questions and I'm like, I don't know what happens the first time she does it. I don't know what the consequences of when she hits the button, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's the big, like one of the big problems of this movie is like we need to, you can't be that quote unquote mysterious. You need to eventually give us some of these answers. That was a big thing with Lost that people had a big problem with. They asked a lot of questions, answered some of them, but there's a lot that they didn't answer. So, you know, take that for what you will.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and you know, and not to say that there isn't an answer for them, but I have a feeling that there isn't.
Yeah.
You know, I have a feeling if you asked the writer director, he would have some weird, long-winded explanation. But I'm just like, yeah, but logically it doesn't make sense. You just did it because you wanted to do it this way.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Okay. So you're right. Yes, it's very relevant to the story. So we will give it props for that it does happen very consistently throughout the movie, and it is both the cause and the effect of all the problems. So clothes and sets were very blue, very gray, very sweatpants, very
also the sets.
American Eagle hoodies.
The sets are very clearly staged sets. Like no house, no building, no room ever feels very lived in.
Yeah.
Like it's all way too clean. It's all way too symmetrical.
It is. It's like the acting feels like acting. The sets feel like sets. That's what's like.
You can't
this
be
movie's
immersed.
lacking like heart or something. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
it is lacking. You're right. You
Mhm.
can't be immersed.
Yeah, it definitely
and it's a
feels.
bummer.
It feels like they're at like Manhattan Beach or something like that. They're at some beach where they just had a couple houses to
Yeah.
film in, and they like were doing all that stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
yeah, and I think the wardrobe too. It feels like it was either everything was on the same day, but like the mom wore the same clothes. I'm sure Kelly's clothes didn't change. And she wore a hoodie, and other people wore hoodies, and it was all just like the same
mean-
clothes.
Wait, Kelly or Cassie? You mean?
Senator Kelly, his
Oh,
character.
Senator
Like,
Kelly, okay.
you know, like I didn't see if in the past scene if he's wearing the same clothes of the future, but it seems like he is.
As someone who's
in
made
my memory,
as
he
someone
is.
who's made an indie movie, it definitely feels like all of his scenes were shot probably 1, maybe 2 days.
Yeah.
In the exact same place. Like otherwise, that conversation with the other Dr. Mills, the Brian's mom, would have been like face to face. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
instead
yeah.
of like over a computer. It was
Right.
very
So they're like, look, we
Yeah.
can't get them both on the same day, so
Yeah.
computer talk.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. But, you know, I will give this movie props for its ambition. I think that's it's definitely like noteworthy. It does as you say swing for the fences. So would you guys want to experience this time travel?
No.
No.
Definitely not.
There's nothing good that comes of this. Not at all. It's big problems everywhere.
Yep. Just if your mom's dying, visit her. Take her to the beach. That's
the moral of this movie.
Just spend time with her. Don't be caught up in your science.
And don't go through this whole like time travel thing to learn that lesson. Just do it.
Just do it.
Okay. So, any other notes? I'm
honestly tired of thinking about this movie.
I started to mark down every time they said the phrase particle pairs, and they said it 5, probably 6 times.
Yep. And negation points, another big one
negation points.
Entanglement,
displacement field control problem, memory fragment, time shifting, fracture. Those were all like within one sentence. Okay. Yeah, he calls her a thief of time. That was lame. And they copied Harry Potter with the Time Turner necklace. Okay, those are all my notes.
Yep, that's it for. I was like, yep, Time Turner.
Time Turner. Yeah, this came out in 2016. You're obviously copying Harry Potter.
You can't do that.
Yeah, you can't pretend.
Or the time stone.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tired of talking about it, but yeah, the Time Turner necklace, like, it's in the dad's house. It's in the hotel room at the end.
Oh,
her mom
thank you for
has
bringing
it.
that up. It doesn't make sense that it's in the hotel room at the end of the movie, right?
No, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, yeah, that's like a change, but that was in the future, I think, so...
Right, the dad died in the future, and so it wouldn't make sense that the necklace would still be there in the past, right?
It's just dumb movie making.
Thank you for me.
Reveals.
Okay. No, move on. Okay, final reviews. Hyde, you start.
Movie-wise, it's so empty. There's some stuff in here. Maybe if there was something else done with the script where they took just like a third of this script and then completely rewrote everything else, it could have been a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But they had to do a lot of work. Sometimes we talk about some movies and just needed a couple more rewrites. This needs a lot. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it needed a lot more to it. There's too many messy plot holes, not enough character development, not enough maybe heart in the movie and in the characters. The characters were all the same, just all the stuff we've been talking about. So I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm right there around there with you guys because, yeah, I think like having Cassie as a main character was a good thing. I think that's a point in itself.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they went hard into the science, but too hard. Way too hard.
Too hard in the science.
Yeah.
Blinded us with your science.
Way too much jargon, I would say. If it was like more about like making a black hole, then sure.
I didn't even laugh at my joke.
Because I'm in the middle of a sentence.
Right, go ahead.
He's giving his thoughts.
Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like, there's a lot of poor writing and a lot of, the acting. Everything just feels empty. So, yeah, I would say I'm going to stick with the 3 as well.
Okay. Time travel?
I'm going to be a little more generous with the time travel because they do a lot of it, and I can tell they actually hired a physics consultant for this film, which I've got to give credit for. And, I'm going to give him credit for having a female lead scientist who's really smart, and she's one step ahead of some people sometimes. So credit to that, except when it comes to apparently overpowering an older woman, she can really handle herself. So 3.5 for the time travel.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do want to give it props too, because they were ambitious with the time travel, and they didn't just have time travel as a gimmick. It was the crux of the story, and I do give it props for that, because as people who have now seen 70 or so different time travel stories, it's exhausting when it's just like someone goes somewhere and then they leave at the end, and that's the only time travel. So 4 out of 10 for me, and I agree about making her smart and the lead.
Yeah, same thing you guys are saying. They really were ambitious, and that is points in and of itself, and it is unique, I would say, because there's like duplication and there's like different timelines going on. There's a lot. It's messy, but they really, they went for it, I guess. Mm-hmm. A lot of inconsistencies and a lot of confusing timeline stuff, but I don't know. Like, to say that there isn't a reason for it all is a little dismissive just because, I don't know, we couldn't hammer it out. Maybe there is. I feel like there isn't, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like if someone really sat down and cared, which, sorry if you do, you can maybe, like, map it out, but it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 3.5 for me.
Cool. Okay, so our next episode is...
By the way, there's no Rotten Tomatoes score for this.
Oh, yes, thank you.
There is none.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Okay, so our next episode is Hyde's Choice. What did you pick?
I chose Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home,
Ooh.
from 1986. To save Earth from an alien probe, Admiral James T. Kirk and his fugitive crew go back in time to San Francisco in 1986
Wow.
to retrieve the only beings who can communicate with it, humpback whales.
Wow.
That's great. I've heard of this, but I've never seen it.
I didn't realize it was directed by Leonard Nimoy. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good
And
Star
written.
Trek film. Everyone talks about Wrath of Khan, which is probably, as far as before they did the reboot with Chris Pine and everything, probably the best Star Trek film. But this is a really good film from what I remember. And it's very different. It's not an action-packed Star Trek film. It's about communication. So I'm very interested in rewatching this about 10 years later with new eyes.
I've never seen it. I like Star Trek, but I've never really gotten into it or watched too much of it.
Yeah,
so,
especially the original series. I did not.
Yeah. So this will be fun. I'm excited.
My initial thought is that this came out in November '86. I imagine it takes place around the same time. I was born around San Francisco in December 1986, so
What?
it's very close to home.
Ooh.
The voyage home.
Yes.
To you. All right. I can't wait to see some young Shatner.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah, younger.
Younger.
86. He's a.
Yeah, it's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Our social media, we are at Time Travel Trio on Twitter and on Instagram if you'd like to follow us. We are the Time Travel Trio podcast on Facebook. We are on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. If you rate, subscribe, follow us on those. We would appreciate ya. If you write us a written review on iTunes, we will make up a fake time travel story about you and your review, as you heard at the top of the episode. And personal, I am at Jem Marlis on Twitter and on Instagram if you'd like to follow me.
I'm a foreman in space.
You're what?
Foreman in space.
Foreign space. I'm at Robinson is Hyde. Real quick, if you guys listen to this and you're in the Los Angeles area, I have a play coming out all throughout June. Our performances are on June 3rd, 7th, 14th, 16th, and 23rd. It's called Blackballed. You can check it out at hff18.org/5051. So hff18.org/5051. Use the code EAGLES to get $5 off your ticket.
Nice.
Yes, we will be there at one of the shows. So
We're not going to tell you which, but
Yeah.
if you catch us, we'll take a picture with you.
yes.
Yes, and you can follow me at Robinson is Hyde
Sign your
on all
merch.
those.
Yes, Robinson is Hyde. And
With that,
We are out of
Time